Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 16 millimeter film crew. I'm Cindy.
And I'm Dale.
You can watch us on YouTube. You can like and comment on our YouTube videos, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can listen to us everywhere podcasts are found at 16 millimeter film crew podcast, and you can visit us on our website at www.16millimeterfilmcrew.com. This week, we watched Nickel Boys, directed by Ramel Ross. Elwood Curtis' college dreams are shattered when he's sentenced to Nickel Academy, a brutal reformatory in the Jim Crow South. Clinging to his optimistic worldview, Elwood strikes up a friendship with Turner, a fellow Black teen who dispenses fundamental tips for survival. This movie stars Ethan Harris, Brandon Wilson, Hamish Linklater, Fred Hinchinger, Daveed Diggs, Jimmy Fails, and Ingenue Ellis Taylor.
Hmm.
So, Dale, what are your thoughts about this movie?
It was an incredibly moving film. Um, Not just based on the uh, la- political tumultuous landscape we're kind of in right now. Where some people want to take it back to that kind of Jim Crow era. But the fact that the way it's shot in a first person POV with the aspect ratio, that they use, like we talk a lot how elements of a film help ground you and put you in the environment. The fact that they had it in that 1.3 aspect ratio kind of was almost like a 4.3, being four by three square. How it kind of traps you in that box, but it also traps you like literally in the POV of those characters. And man, it was so beautiful. Like that being enamored and being like, there are certain times I was like, dang, I know I'm watching a movie, but I had to like take a step back a bit and process things a bit. So I love those kind of intentional touches when a director and a writer are able to put people in their picture almost. I think both these actors did wonderful performances. Ethan Hurst as Elwood and Brandon Wilson. The twist at the end was kind of, I saw the twist kind of coming because the scenes they shot from the back with the older Elwood slash Turner, you could kind of tell that the skin tone is not the same. So I kind of saw it coming that that's not the real Elwood. But all in all, still an amazingly well done picture. Audrey Ellis Taylor is unsung in her talents. Like she like when she gets these roles of playing uh Black women, Black motherhood, like those kind of like she is well versed, and I wish she got other chances beyond. It seems like maybe she's a bit typecast in particularly but predominantly Black projects, and I wish that she got a chance to showcase her skills in other projects as well. So.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Yeah, this movie was really like visually just so immersive and really like um beautiful and captivating in terms of just like sucking you into that world. And yes, the aspect ratio and the POV camera work, like it it was one just experimental in terms of I don't know any other movie where a director has like placed the camera onto the actors, which is what he did in this, Ramel did in this case. And I think that that's such cool. And then the way, and they shot it in kind of four different ways. And then there were some shots where it looked like a regular movie where you were seeing two people in a scene talking back and forth, and then it would switch to like over the shoulder, or you would just see someone's hands because the camera was on their chests. Like that's such like inventive ways of like telling a story that I did not know. I had no idea about these type of schools that it seems like black boys were just like put into for no reason. And so it was really powerful in terms of just like cinematography, visuals, just on that scale. But in terms of the actual story, it was just as powerful. And honestly, I didn't as intentional as like the POV filmmaking was in like putting you into the shoes of these people. I did not want to be there because it was awful. Like everything that was happening to those boys was just like incredibly sad and depressing. Like I felt when I was watching some of it at first, like I was just like, oh, is this going to be like another black trauma situation? I don't know if I really want to see that. But I think the ending was really powerful. Like what they were showing was like a friendship between two black young men, which like you often don't see, especially in cinema. So like it was very, I think all of those messages like interlaced with the brutality of the situation. I think that that message was really powerful. And yeah, so that was really great. And I completely agree with you when we're talking about Aunjanue Alice Taylor. Like Wes Anderson, put her in a movie. Like Paul Thomas Anderson, put her in a movie. Like I just feel like she's so good. Like I don't understand why she keeps getting like relegated to these like black films. Not that there's anything wrong with that because our films, our stories deserve to have a place in cinema. It's just that like she should be doing more because she has the talent to do more. And it's really unfortunate that like some people get to, kind of do both things, and some don't. And I just feel like she is so deserving to like be in everyone's film. Like she's so incredible and she's been so amazing for so many years that yeah, I don't know. I just want her to like do all the things because she's so great. And in this in particular, like the scenes that she was in was like really heartbreaking. Like there's one scene where she's like cutting cake and she's talking about I think she's talking about her father and like the brutality that he went through. And she can see how like she's like really trying to shape and put all of her hopes and her dreams into Elwood, into making sure that like he goes off, he goes to school, like he gets a good life. He doesn't have to endure all this stuff that she had to endure and like her family did.
Mm.
And for him to be caught up in that same situation, literally for no like just for, not having a car, I guess, and like trusting this other black man just to give him a ride to his college. It's just that was just so totally heartbreaking. Like Elwood's story, depressing. Absolutely depressing. But I think their friendship was really sweet.
Yeah, and it coincides with a lot of things. You have of course, Elwood is idealistic. That influence on his grandmother, by Audrey. It's he's idealistic, whereas Turner, he's more world weary. He's
Hmm.
more realistic in his things, and that's the dichotomy of us as Black people tend to have a lot of these issues going on, like and we all understand the same struggle, but some of us like, look, I just need to survive, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to survive. And there's also people like, I don't just want to survive, I also want to thrive, I want to make change. And it's always is not two diametrically opposed views because we all want to strive for the same thing, but it's our activeness in it. You know,
Hmm.
do you want to just survive or do you want to actively make change? Those two views are always very diametrically opposed when it comes to issues like this. Um, and I love the way they portrayed it. And I don't know, this movie I think hits harder for me, knowing being from South Florida, being in Florida, and knowing that like, and the school was only closed like in I think 2011. You know,
Yeah, so it was recent.
so it's still recent. It's based on a real school. You know, where they dug up graves. Like as far as 2019, they were digging up graves. Like there are multiple times where the school should have been closed, and everybody was like, "Nah, change this aspect and be fine." Like even said from like the 1960s, the governor was like, "Yeah, this school should have been blown the whistle a long time ago," and no real active change. So it might not have been as violent as it once was, but kids were still dying there. like
Mhm.
for decades. And for me, I was like, dang, any kind of situation could have happened to me as a kid in Florida, and I would have been there. Like I would have been a real life version of this story, you know. And those are the kind of things I kind of I took it to heart when watching this picture, you know.
Yeah, it was very, I think that's the thing is that like maybe there was a narrative that like if you lived your life a certain type of way, then you would be spared from like the cruelty of racism.
Yeah,
And the truth is that no, like you can do everything right and still end up in these situations. And I think that that was really important. That was one of the most like powerful things for me to see was that like I understood that eventually there would be boys who would be at this school. But when it starts, like you're just with Elwood and he's just like living his life in Florida, like, you know, he's at the comic book store, like he's at school, he has a girlfriend, like his life seems fine. And literally him just like trying to get to these free courses, like, and then just getting in the wrong car, like, that's it.
yeah,
Life changed and ended. Like,
yeah,
it's that simple. And it's just like, it forces you to like really grapple with the realities of like what systemic racism is and like how that still and how it's not. I think that was the thing that got me was like, this isn't something that was like, oh, it just happened in the 60s and we moved on and we moved forward from that.
mm,
I felt very grateful to like grow up in the early 2000s in the North, I'll say that. But like in terms of just like what's happening right now, it's like these these are the effects. Like you cannot escape it.
yeah,
And it hasn't really changed that much. Like as
yeah,
much progress as I think we feel we've made, and we have made some progress, it all just feels very tenuous. Like it can just go away
yeah.
in 2 seconds.
And I love the fact that intermittently through the movie you have, you know, of course, this deep civil rights era. You have quotes from Martin Luther King. You have scenes of, you know, it's happening during the civil rights movement. You have Elwood himself protesting and marching himself. You know, you have all these different things. You have the setting of the school. You have the the altercations and problems that the students themselves are facing. And against that, when they showcase other shots, like real shots in the air, you just don't get you get images of the real truth of what happened in this event of the documentation, but it also juxtaposes scenes of NASA and space exploration just to show you like that era of United States, the 1960s, 1950s is really well. You have the juxtaposition of this inhuman and inhumane suppression of civil rights from a group of people just based on the color of skin. We have this time of amazing technological advancement in the country and in the world. And you're like, how are we so advanced as a society? We can go to the moon, we can go to space, you know, but we're still treating each other the way they are. And like wonderful touches, you know, between, you know, just that kind of decision making and showing that visually. Like I said, it's a amazing thing to see.
Yeah, I thought that was really, again, just visually, like just such a great touch to cut in different um archive footage of like what was happening at the time. But also I know that the editor of the film had said that there were certain visuals that they put into the film that really didn't have anything to do with like a certain time period or anything, but just was like showing the interior life of like how these characters would have felt about a
Hmm.
certain situation. And that was a visual representation in itself. So I thought it was like really, again, just like, I don't know, I have not seen a movie like this where you were getting kind of like such a close up look and feel of like what these people are going through. And I
Yeah,
think it's good because like as a black person you can definitely relate, but also like if you're watching this as a white person or a non-black person, like it forces you to like be in there in a way that I think is new and doesn't you can feel the brutality, but again, you can also feel the hope in it as well.
mm,
But I just thought that was such a good idea. Like even the time lapse of Turner on the train, where you think that you're seeing it when you first see it, it seems like it's oh his journey to getting to Nickel,
yeah,
and then when you realize that actually it was his journey of leaving, it was just like that kind of. storytelling is just really good. And
Hmm.
I'm so happy that a black person were the people who did it. Like I'm
Yeah,
just there's just something really exciting about like having such an amazing movie and it being made by black people. Like it's just great.
yeah, like and it goes to show like the best stories are people who've shared a lived experience. Yes, the story is also this film screenplay is co-written by a white woman, but it's clear when it came time to, put task at hand, she clearly took a step back and let everybody else involved who were people of color, um, who could understand this experience emotionally, and can relate to it. Let that like she's like, all right, I'm just gonna be involved in the writing. Everything else, that's y'all, kind of thing. Stepping back and being able to know your place, in a way. But it's performances from these young boys top to bottom, and it's not just that, it's also the performances of them as far as because 9 times out of 10, if you're doing a scene like a movie like this is you're shooting twice as much.
Mm,
You're shooting your scenes twice for the most part because you have one POV shot with one person and scenes are going, kids got it, everybody has to do their dialogue. You switch sides for the other person on the rebuttal side, and the background kids who have to respond as well have to repeat again. And yeah, top to bottom, like the level of intention and like all these kids, all these young men put forward. Like there's even like a little boy, like who looks like 5 years old with this
what
little
is he doing?
with bread basket, walking through the scene like, sullen. And I was like, yeah. And this is an amazing, like I can't, my words cannot describe it. And honestly, it sounds like with all the issues he's had as a person, not a person, as a father, I guess. I don't know. For some reason, why does Brad Pitt always pick these movies, to somehow be a producer for it? 12 Years a Slave, Selma,
Hmm.
Moonlight,
Hmm.
Beautiful
Hmm.
Boy, Bill Street Could Talk, you know, Last Black Man in San Francisco, like Brad. I don't. Why does Brad Pitt have his ears to the like Bob Marley One World? How? Why does he? How does he have his ear to the ground on these culturally like diverse stories? Minari. Like
Hmm.
that's I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever issues Brad Pitt has, and I know that he has issues with
Yeah.
his family. Brad Pitt is one of those white men who I will defend. Sorry. I know this might be a controversial opinion. I am so sorry. There are people who are very problematic.
Yeah. In their personal life, everybody is. Yeah.
But I will defend them, and Brad Pitt is one of them. I'm sorry. Because I really don't. And that's the thing. It's like you need these kind of establishment figures in the business to say, I'm going to invest in these kinds of stories because honestly, like a lot of people aren't doing it.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever issues he may have, and I know he has them, like I don't see anyone else doing it, like for real. I don't. Like
Yeah.
other directors who I love, who I respect, you barely see black people in their films. Like they are not making movies about our experiences. And Brad Pitt is over here with his production company investing in these stories. So I'm sorry, but I am gonna have to support him. Like you just rattled off a huge list of these amazing films that Brad Pitt has been behind 1000%. Like I, it is what it is.
It
Like
is
it
what
just
it
is what
is.
it is.
Yeah.
Cause
It really
like
is.
fantastic. I loved seeing that little Plan B logo when it came up, and I was just like, yeah, well, of course, he's doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
One
And
of the only people, like,
and it's not even to condone like whatever issues. Like everybody has issues with their family. Like the only difference is his is playing out on a public stage because of who he
yeah.
is. Like
Hmm.
no one knows what happens behind the scenes. Like oh, me and my dad argue. The rest of the world don't know me and my dad argue, but everybody now is like those kind of things. So I look at it kind of differently, like you said. Like I was still like, all right, I can't. Whatever is happening with him and his family, I can't judge because everybody has
Mm.
issues. But as far as putting forth the time and effort to highlight black voices and black stories, he's putting the work in. You know, so
Brad Pitt, we salute you. Um, but yeah, I just I feel like this is a movie that I'm gonna have to like keep thinking about and like meditating on because like having recently watched it, like I can talk about my initial impressions, but in terms of like what the film is, it's so like deep and layered and like
Mm,
even in the presentation, like I think when we think about the 1960s and civil rights, it's all, it's black and white. It feels like it's such a long time ago, and I think that
it's not.
you can have some distance from it, but like the way that it was presented in this film, it was very bright, natural lighting. It feels like these were people that you probably ran like into in your own neighborhood. It all felt like very tangible, very close to home
Mm,
in a way that I haven't seen one of these period films, especially depicting this period in time, feel like. I haven't seen a film do anything that this film has done. So it's gonna take me a while to like really digest everything that was coming out of that film, even down to the performances of like both of the actors
mm,
and also the supporting cast. Because like to portray those kinds of things, like deep fear, anger, like not knowing how to express the fact that you were just like at this place, you're away from your family, even if your like whatever your family situation was, you don't have people to come check in on you. Like you are a young man developing and you don't have good role models around you. Like the only one black guy there is like an Uncle Tom. Like
yeah,
so it's just a lot to take in. And I feel like for everyone who's on that set, I'm sure like it was such an emotional experience. But I thought all of the background actors, the other boys who were in the school were fantastic as well. So yeah, this was just like an incredible movie. Like
yeah.
absolutely incredible.
And you mentioned something like how we usually see this time period as so far away, and I do think that is an intentional thing that media has done. If you look at this
Hmm.
time period, a lot of the pictures are in black and white, but color video and color photo was a thing back then. But it seems like intentionally every time where 9 times out of 10 you see a picture of Martin Luther King or anything involving civil rights, it's intentionally put in black and white when color was a thing. And it also highlights that when you interlace the shots of the videos of like young boys, it might not have been the boys who were there, probably was, probably wasn't, but in boys in a certain summer situation, because Nickel or Dozer School for Boys, which is in Florida, which is what it was based on, was not the only facility like this running at the time. And the fact that it included boys like dressed up in costumes celebrating Halloween, and those were in color, it really highlights the fact that this was not long ago. This could have been yesterday, and yeah, it's words cannot be said about this picture. And knowing that now, and knowing it's that nominated up for not just best screenplay, best adapted screenplay, I think, and
Hmm.
best picture. Watching it, I can verbatimly see why it's up there. You know,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
it deserves this place, and it's the movie I think in that category that might not have had the widest viewing of it, based on this is really much in a very independent film,
Hmm.
when I say independent, I don't mean poorly done, I mean a very small marketing window, not very widely distributed for the most part. But yeah, it deserved watching this, the subject matter, the cinematography, the performances. It deserves this place up there for best picture.
Yeah, 1000%. And I've been hearing about this movie for like months.
Mhm.
And I thought even in the trailers, I was like, oh, this is so cool how they're like shooting it. But like actually watching it, like definitely one of the best films out of last year for sure. Like for sure. So I hope people get a chance to see it. Like I hope now that it's nominated, it'll get a bigger distribution or end up on like a streaming service or something so that people can watch it because it's
Mhm.
like fantastic.
Yeah. So I guess it's on to the news. Of course, we're recording a bit early for you guys. Busy weekend stuff to do earlier in the coming days. But as I'm recording, the SAG Awards are going on. Yeah, it very interesting right now. As far as the only awards we publicly available to us right now, of being known are early best outstanding performance by ensemble comedy cast was Only Murders in the Building. Me, I can't, going verbatim with Early Murders Building. Cause I think as the seasons have gone on, the show hasn't hit the same standard to me in opinion. So like, I don't know what to expect out of that. Of course, Shogun, amazing show, came out of nowhere on FX. They've won best ensemble cast in a drama. Um, Outstanding performance by a female actress in a supporting role, Wendy Zoe Saldana for her role as Rita in Emilia Perez. We'll see how that goes over into upcoming Oscar season or
She's
Oscars. You think she's gonna win?
yeah.
I don't know. Well,
She's been racking them up. So
yeah.
it doesn't seem like anybody else is, you know.
Yeah. Colin Farrell won for his role in The Penguin as Oswald
Eh,
Cobb for a
not
limited
bad.
series. Jessica Gunning won for her role in Bailey Reindeer. Um, Martin Short, of course, won for Best Outstanding Male Actor in a Comedy Series for his role as Oliver in All the Murders in a Building. Jean Smart knocked it out of the park regularly. She won for her role in Hacks as a lead female actor. Um, Yoho Hiro Hirozuki Sadada, hopefully I didn't butcher up that Japanese one for his role is for best male actor in a drama series for his role in Shogun. Anna Sawa won for best female actor in a drama series for her role in Shogun. Culkin spoke about him a couple of days ago. Real Pain, best supporting role. You can kind of think in Royal Pain, he's kind of the lead role, I don't think in that movie there's supporting or lead. I think they both played an even part in Real Pain, but as of now, those are the current winners as of this recording currently.
Okay. So Euphoria season 3 has started production. They were supposed to start in January, but they are starting now. And I can't imagine what this third season is going to be after all the leaks about not really having a story locked down. Actors have left the show. It just kind of seems like a mess over there. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Also, I think Zendaya is doing the Chris Nolan movie in the summer, and I know Euphoria takes like a year to make, so I'm wondering how she's going to figure that out. A lot of these actors are in like other very big movies, so it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see like the scheduling and like how they end up finishing the season and what it will be like.
Yeah, the thing about Euphoria I don't like is the gaps in production. Understandably so, between the difference between season one and season two was due to the pandemic. They did shoot a couple specials, two specials during the pandemic and got it done. But then, season one and season two are also 8 episodes. I I I'm not a fan of truncating shows with 8 episode seasons. That's absurdist to me.
Mm.
Prestige TV, 8 episodes a season is really redundant. And then the gap, like last episode for Euphoria season two aired 20 in February this month that's about to end, February 27th of 2022. That's a big time. We're on the show's probably not going to air until 2016, 2026, most likely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't.
Yeah. And the way that the idol flopped, I have no faith in whatever story they're gonna turn out. I think with time, people have reflected on season 2 of Euphoria, especially, and we're like, it was a lot of drama, but was it actually good? And I feel like everyone's in a different position now. So like, I don't know. I guess maybe was it in the contract they all have to come back? I'm not really sure. Maybe they wanted to try it again to see if they could do something different with it, but. I just have no faith in whatever this is going to be. Like, I don't think Sam Levinson is good at doing this. So,
All right. So our next news story over this currently happened over though I think started Friday, was moved on over the weekend, but it's still a major story. Um it's apparently NBC and along with their MSNBC, along with their split from NBC Universal, they have removed Joy Reid from their primetime legacy. Joy Reid has been the host of Readout. Readout from the last couple of years started as a blogger. Um and in that time slot, they're moving to three hosts. from the weekend of Michael Steele, Alicia Mendez, and Simone Sanders into that primetime slot, replacing Joy Reid. And the shakeup has kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Of course, with the new they have a new president stepping up, named Rebecca Coulter, who's succeeding Rashida Jones, after she left in January, who's also trying to add um, more anchors to their roster, including politicals Eugene Daniels and NYU's Melissa Murray to serve as analysts and other on-air talent. Um, the move is supposed to help MSNBC stick to their, of course, diverse and very progressive roster of primetime anchors, which also marks the fact that I think MSNBC is also one of the highest primetime rated news slots um, on broadcast TV. This shakeup roast was kind of weird because to promote your diversity and progressiveness and your prominent episodes, you've kind of pulled one of the few prominent black voices, male or female, in primetime television. There were issues beside outside of jury beyond, I guess, um, with that and kind of the way she delivered. I think one issue people took to task is after our current president was elected, she kind of took particularly Republican voters, more so Latino voters, to task, saying whatever repercussions you face as a Latino Republican voter, you've kind of brought this on yourself, which also is a sentiment that a lot of Black people had as a result of the election. So I don't know. This shakeup, we'll see what turns out of it. Um, they're also bringing in Rachel Maddow, who was off the air for a while, but with the election of this current president, she was brought back like 5 nights a week from a once a week schedule to 5 nights a week after inauguration. So that showcases that this current new broadcast president in Rebecca Kohler is changing the way the landscape of MSNBC, as far as their news programming, operates. So we'll see how it goes. Um, but yeah, for a while, Joy Reid and of course former CBS T, CNN anchor Don Lemon were the two of the most prominent Black voices in primetime news. And see, Don Lemon's gone to do his own thing, and hopefully Joy Reid will land her feet and do the same as well. So
Yeah, it's network news is having um let's just say some issues and how to deal with the news in the Trump era, the second Trump era, unfortunately. Um and Joy Reid was definitely one of those people who were very outspoken about like what was going on. And MSNBC is a very liberal station, but it's a liberal station like for like liberals, not for like left wing leaning, like really left wing people.
mm,
Um so for example, I don't watch the news anymore. I
same,
have people
same.
who are political commentators on YouTube who know what they're talking about, and that's how I get my news of what's going on. And it's primarily because of these reasons. Like I feel like because they don't know how to address Trump. And honestly, a lot of the people who own these networks are scared of what Trump will do to them. So they're making decisions that aren't, in my view, the best decisions, but they're doing it to protect themselves and whoever is investing in their networks. But also like after the election, like MSNBC, NBC, CNN, like all of these places had like significant drops in viewership. And I don't know, it seems like they don't know how to adapt to like what is happening right now, which is like the fact that most people aren't getting their news from these like from these network news stations. Like a lot of people are getting it from their local stations, from online. Like it's a very different landscape, and I don't think they know what to do. I think dropping Joy Reid makes no sense because she was a person who was really good at like challenging these ideas of being honest. She goes viral online a lot. So like it's not a surprising move at all. It's just it is speaking to the time that we're in right now where it's like everyone in these higher places, these establishment institutional stuff don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think she'll be fine. I'm sure girl, go on YouTube and have your own show. You'll get like 1 million followers in like a day.
Yeah. Like I said, I think our generation kind of doesn't watch news as like I kind of was sort of watching news, I guess, college, Oakwood. I, as you're aging, you get more invested in news when stuff is happening. But after a while, with everything that's happening, how they're reporting it kind of tapered off. But Joy Wood was always somebody I'd click to see, hear what she was talking about, because for the most part, she speaks to a demographic that is larger than her. Black women, black people. She talks like us, sounds like us, gonna be blunt and honest, and it was a breath of fresh air to watch that. Um, so yeah, she'll go on to do probably. We've seen a lot of anchors in the last couple months, couple years have moved on from their roles, their station. I think she'll land on her feet perfectly fine. Like she's gonna
Yeah.
be someone who deep like if she does YouTube, she's gonna get a lot of younger viewers as well. I think that's also one thing they underrated with her, that the amount of young viewers Joy Reid also brought in as well. So I think she'll be fine as well.
Yeah. Me too. Okay, so in our last story, we were talking about how Amazon has gained creative control over the James Bond franchise. Now, it used for I think the entire history of it, or at least in terms of like the film adaptations, it was under the control of Michael and Barbara Broccoli. They were the ones who were making the decisions about like where the character would go next, and a lot. They were influential in like all of the films. Not, were they doing it way back in the day?
No,
No, they start with Daniel Craig, I think, right?
they took over around the end of I want to say Pierce Brosnan's run. They
Okay,
took over from their
yeah.
father Albert Broccoli. Um, but
Oh, broccoli, sorry, not
yeah,
broccoli.
they I think their involvement was always going to change, especially knowing that MGM was their main distributor for the James Bond films, and now MGM is part of Amazon.
Amazon,
So
yeah.
that was always going to come to a head of who owns this property, especially when Amazon is trying to compete against your Netflixes, your Disney Pluses. Amazon is trying to build a roster of um, not prestige TV, but a roster of known brands for their premium platform. They already have Jack Ryan, they have Reacher, and now they have James Bond. So, and it's also funny that they've bought all the spy franchises in a most that you only can watch on Amazon now. So it's
Mm,
funny. So
yeah, I don't love it because, like, again, when these bigger studios get involved with the creative stuff, sometimes it works if you just like leave people alone and let them do their work. Like, I think Apple is a good example of a platform that's very big, but like they let their people do whatever they want. And then you get something like Severance. Or I think there's a new movie called The Gorge with Anya Taylor-Joy that everyone's
yeah,
loving. So like they just let everyone do what they want over there, which is great. And then you get Warner Brothers. Like so that's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. But like it is kind of nerve-wracking because it's just like, oh, what are they gonna do? I don't know. I don't trust them.
yeah. And I mean, I've heard talks that instead of being a film franchise, it might also just turn into a streaming series, which I don't know. James Bond is
Yeah.
was one of those roles that helps launch an actor's career. Like only actor I know who probably had a career before James Bond was Pierce Brosnan. He was acting and stuff already, and that's why if you're a Bond fan, the time of Timothy Dalton when he was Bond, they wanted Pierce, but Pierce Brosnan was like, "Look, I got these other movies, I got these shows and movies I'm doing. I don't have time for it." So for most actors, and it put Daniel Craig into the limelight. Like he was acting before, but it elevated his career. So playing James Bond is one of those career elevating roles. So whether it becomes a streaming series or it continues on the films, we'll see how it goes. Of course, everybody's favorite fan cast is Henry Cavill, especially
Mm,
seeing in Man from Uncle. You wish he kind of got Bond from back then, but
mm.
yeah. So
Let's see. Okay, so let's talk about what we have been watching.
Um, so I'm been marathoning, well, not marathoning because it comes out every so often. A show on it's a Cartoon Network show that airs on HBO Max or the Max. Got to keep it hip and trendy. Called the Max. Calls called Common Side Effects. It's kind of like low key comedy thriller. Like I recognize some of the voices in the show, like the fucking voice of Hank Hill from King of the Hills in the show. Like it is
Mm,
basically about basically the DEA after a guy who has kind of found a miracle mushroom that can heal any drug, can heal any illness, and how it's kind of like a espionage, a kind of a thriller, a comedy thriller where him trying to keep above the keep up and away from the DEA, and also medical big pharma companies trying to kill him. And it's funny, but also I think the best comedy has a hinge of truth because they talk about how big pharma for the most parts will heal you just enough, but still keep you sick enough where they need you. So I love when you're able to express serious topical things in a comedic way. So I'm loving the cartoon so far, but yeah.
sounds good. Um, I don't know if I've already talked about this, but let's just assume that I haven't. I've been watching The Righteous Gemstones with that's a Danny McBride show. I don't know how I feel about him. I think he did some stuff in the past that I'm not a fan of, but I can't remember. So I'm watching this show now. And it's about like a Christian family who has like a mega church and who is like being basically like the guy who was Justin Bieber's pastor, like just insane, while professing Christian values, you know. So again, another comedy show that hits way too close to home, that's very truthful and like sad about like mega churches and these pastors who very much take advantage of their flock and are living better than most of the people who attend their church and continue to ask them for money and just doing insane, immoral, like unethical things. Like, so that's what this show was about. It's a comedy, but like it's a little too accurate because I don't know when this show came out, but maybe it came out around the same time where all of these other mega pastors were getting exposed, and in that way life was imitating art. So is it a comedy if it's true? Like I guess, I mean, is it fiction if it's true? I don't know, but yeah, it is funny and just crazy. So I've been watching that with my friend.
I think what Racist Gemstones came out around the time. And what was the name of the movie? We watched it with Jessica Stan. Tammy Faye? Was it that movie?
Oh, the As a Tammy Faye?
Yeah, I think it came out around that time, but it's
Oh, wow.
kind of starts from that kind of era where all these pastors was like, hey, TV, basic cable, make money? Yeah, so.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's very a little too accurate. But yeah, so that's what I've been watching. And I think that's it from us this week. So we hope that you are all taking care of yourselves and having a great week. Make sure to check out all of our social media. Support us if you can. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.
Au revoir.